All right, let's get right to the heart of this thing.
Don't fight it, son. Confess quickly.
Strange women lying in ponds, distributing swords is no basis for a system of government.
Don't touch it! It's evil!
That was only one of the many occasions on which I met my death.
Welcome to the podcast, Adventure-Cateers. It's time for a new series. And now for something completely Gilliam, is what we're going to call it. This is going to be us talking about the films of Terry Gilliam on Framework. That's the podcast you're listening to. I am one of the hosts of Framework. John, with me as always, the other host of Framework. Al, how are you this morning, Al?
Neat. I'm good. I'm sorry. I will not yell knee at you anymore today. That was uncouth of me.
Yeah, scary times in America when podcasters can just shriek knee at the beginning of a conversation. And joining us, returning once again to the program, Chicago's own Daniel Shea. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I'm wonderful, and I'm excited to be discussing a movie that I watched probably 7,000 times as a child. So,
yeah, I think last time we had you on was The Big Lebowski, and
yes,
this and that film are maybe the most quotable films ever made, where literally every line in the movie is quotable.
You know what's funny is I was thinking about that exact same thing, because I was like, in the Big Lebowski episode, it was hard for me not to just sit here and just quote the entire movie. And then as I was watching Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail again, I was like, it's going to be a tough one for me again. I'm going to have to keep stopping myself. And
oh yeah,
but
it's a.
I mean, certainly for like our particular demographic, like men of our age, these were VHS and our levels of, I guess, nerddom. These were VHS staples, and we glommed on and repeated them ad nauseum.
Well, this is a question I want to pose early on. Just sort of put it out there at the beginning, because we are of a generation. Yes, this film has a mythic importance for us. It's one of the most crucial films of a developing mind for 90s kids. Is it losing it a little? Is this thing kind of going out of vogue? Is it getting dated and getting replaced by newer stuff? Does Gen Z give a shit about Holy Grail? I want to put that up here. We don't have to answer that now, but I'm curious.
Do they give a shit? No, but that's just because they're drowning in content, and that I don't think Gen Z watches the same thing 8,000 times the way that we did when we were in grade school, because we lacked for options the way that people have now. I think that if you can trick a Gen Z or even a Gen Alpha into watching this, I think the silliness is pretty timeless, and its relentlessness and its jokiness holds up better than a lot of comedy of that era, which is slower paced.
Damn, well, okay, maybe we don't need to make it an entire episode-long question. Maybe that's just the answer.
I do think it ages well in watching, like, because you always worry going back and watching these classics that you loved, and then you're like, okay, am I prepping myself for a little cringe at a joke that doesn't play anymore? And there really wasn't much, and so I think for younger generations, there's not going to be that much that like turns them away. And I do think sometimes it's just going to take a couple real viral TikToks of the Knights That Say Knee that shoot these things back into the zeitgeist. But that's not up to us. That's up to some content farm in.
But it's it's perfectly constructed for TikTok. Actually, is why I think that will happen at some point. I mean, even I see it, in my old man way of Instagram reels filtering through into a Facebook feed or whatever. But sometimes, like, I'll just be inundated suddenly with a week where there's a lot of clips from the original Airplane, and like, okay, this movie and that movie are very similar in their joke cadence, and how they, the same algorithm that is cropping those Airplane clips could crop these. It's just maybe a touch too British for my feed. I don't know what's holding it back slightly there.
Yeah, I guess absurdism doesn't really age like other stuff might. Well, I don't know, because we're also going to be talking today about Monty Python's Flying Circus, the original sketch show that it all was born after, mostly because, we're talking about the films of Terry Gilliam, the first of which is The Holy Grail. His origin story as a director is nuts. It's crazy that this happened, that he is he was an animator and a student from Minnesota that somehow ended up in one of the most influential and legendary British comedy troupes of all time. It's really bizarre that he's just sitting there alongside 5 other just legendary British comedians. And it is bizarre that even having watched this movie thousands of times, having watched all of Circus in my youth and being enough of a nerd to be very versed in Monty Python and to know about the rest of Gilliam's filmography. I saw Zero Theorem in the theater. God damn it. Yeah. And one of, we unhappy few. But I didn't learn until last week that Gilliam was actually American. I just always assumed he was the most British guy who had ever existed. He makes some incredibly British movies, especially early in his career. But yeah, he's from Minnesota, a small town. Uh-huh.
I remember that being like
as
a
were the
rumor.
Coen brothers, our last,
Yeah, they're about as different as filmmakers get, honestly. But I don't know. They're both kind of madmen in a way.
They both love absurdism to a degree.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I remember the American thing being like something that was like set in Boy Scouts and schools, where someone would be like, one of those guys is American, and there was just not a way to prove or disprove that in the moment. So you would just argue about it for an hour, and then I don't know, finally hearing an interview, because he wasn't in it as much. So it wasn't even like, oh, that guy with the American accent.
Yeah, he doesn't have a signature role. I mean, because he was not an actor, he was never intended, but it's weird that he ended up in so much of it, though. Like, he's all over this movie, and he's in the sketches, in the background, generally. He doesn't have I guess his signature role is the crazy old man from Scene 42, but, and that seems to be something that just happened organically. Like he was working in the UK doing animations, and got hired for television shows. He did something with Cleese at one point. It's unclear that was really a big part of it, but he did a show, a children's television show called Do Not Adjust Your Set, which had Eric Idle, Terry Jones, Michael Palin working on it as an animator and designer. And then the next step is Monty Python somehow. Like, they just hit it off, presumably. I can't even imagine how they were in the same room together working on this. But somehow he made friends in the right places. And they saw, I guess the cartoons were kind of the main appeal initially, that he has such a distinctive style. The sort of Victorian cutout images moving around that basically inspires South Park. And then his animation, his actual drawings, which are these like bulbous monsters or disgusting looking people. And they set the tone for Monty Python right off, of course. That imagery is, it's burned into my mind. Feels inextricable with the legacy of the thing.
Yeah.
To hear him tell it, he just kind of asked, like he liked their work and asked to meet them, basically, at a time when, that was, you couldn't DM somebody, but they had worked on something in common, and they were sort of well known enough for him to have developed a fandom of them, but they're not such big celebrities that they would turn down a random animator wanting to meet with them, and then they just hit it off.
This was, of course, before they were really Eric Idle, Terry Jones, and Michael Palin. Yeah.
Do you guys remember the Monty Python video game for the PC in the 90s?
Was it the Holy Grail video game?
It was a Holy Grail video game.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, because that, to me, thinking of the animations and stuff, obviously they're iconic in the movie, but it was such a huge part of, basically that whole game was like, it felt like entirely produced by Terry Gilliam, because it was all the animations and it struck me watching the movie where sometimes the images weren't matching what was in my memory, because I'm like, oh, I'm remembering the video game, because it used a lot of the same, like the god coming out of the clouds and the same style. And then even like little lines and stuff like that they repeat over and over and over in the game. Like, I'm getting better.
Yeah, if they're not really abusing the like little yay fanfare that they do with the thing, that's one of my favorite sound clips of all time. The muted celebration of sound effect. And that does seem like something that would be entirely Terry Gilliam that would be interested in that type of video game and that type of design, whatever. It doesn't necessarily seem like that's in John Cleese's wheelhouse.
That's what I kind of wondered. I was like, I'm sure that there's places I could go to figure this out, but I was like, I would bet that he had a lot more to do with that than any of the other. Like each of the other ones showed up for 1 hour in a sound booth to do something, and then Terry Gilliam worked for 6 months round the clock.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be curious about that. He has such a distinct and like famous style by that point, by the 90s. It's kind of at the peak of when this stuff is really actually just crushing it in America, maybe. I don't know, a bit of a slow roll. It seems like there's a good 20, 30 years where this was, the absolute height of comedy. Or maybe that was just a teenager at the time. I'm curious, do kids still watch this? But
I mean, Python, the Flying Circus goes off the air in, I believe, 74, and Holy Grail comes out in 75.
Right.
And then by, 77, we have Saturday Night Live?
Yes.
As the new hot sketch comedy thing.
No,
but still, certainly. Also in the 70s, there's more of a separation between British culture and American culture, too. And I don't know how long it took Python to disseminate fully into America. I just know by the early 90s, it had made its way to us in Wichita, Kansas.
It's hard to track that pre-internet. It's hard to know exactly what the proliferation was. I mean, this is something my dad used to me. He's like, "Oh, you got to say this is funny," kind of thing.
That's the kind of thing. Is like I feel like we were the second generation of this because I was introduced it again by scout leaders and things like that. I keep bringing this was huge in Boy Scouts. This was like I associate this so much because all my scout leaders were obsessed with this, and then we used to do like skits and everything, and we would literally act out this movie. Because that's what you did in pre-internet. If kids are listening, I want to know what we did is we just acted out movies. That was and then we played ball and stick. No, but it was like, so I was like, we were already kind of the
diet of consumption.
Yeah, exactly. So it was the next, if we're introducing this to the next generation, you're like now this is like the same as our parents introducing us to the Marx Brothers,
Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah, it's like,
jeez.
Which I would say the Marx Brothers still. Sure. I think there's certain things that still connect. Like I could still watch a Marx Brothers movie and laugh. Mm-hmm. Maybe not all of them, but there's a couple that still because I think there's like timeless jokes and things that just work. And I think that there's a lot in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The entire. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to it, but the entire ending, the way this movie ends, I think would still be very funny to a modern young viewer of just like, oh no, they just all get arrested. Like when it cut to Johnny, I laughed out loud having seen this movie so many times. When it cuts to John Cleese being cuffed against, I still, because I kind of forgot that happened first, and I like guffawed out loud. I think that would, I don't know. I think there's a lot that still would resonate.
You know what I was struck by with watching Flying Circus, especially a bunch, is because I was wondering if it was going to hold up, and I would say. It didn't hold up, but like totally great for me. In that it's a lot more disjointed and madcap, and I guess to use the parlance of the generations we're talking about here, LOL random than I had recalled, and so I think that actually ages it pretty well. In that it felt a lot more like Adult Swim content, just thoroughly anglicized than I recalled. And so I think for that and that sort of speaks to the ending of Grail you're talking about, and how that is how you would end I don't know, a Michael Bolton Adult Swim episode, special that you didn't like, the plot didn't have an end for the plot.
Yeah. It is how most of the episodes of Monty Python's Flying Circus end as well. I mean, obviously there's a lot less narrative to hang on in those, but they always end with sort of like, oh, no, we're done. Wrap it all up, folks. Boom, the end, or whatever. The episodes I watched this last week, I was really struck by it. This is actually quite a bit more absurd than I recalled. Like, it's way the fuck out there and very bizarre. And I guess in some ways dated. I watched an episode about aliens attacking and turning everyone into Scotsmen. That it's just like this is.
You've never nuts. Seen content as racist against Scotsmen as this sketch. You wouldn't think it's possible to be that. Like you would think, yeah, maybe you could be a little racist against Scotsmen. Oh no.
That episode is kind of weird in that it actually has a narrative that tracks through the whole 30 minutes. and culminates in a tennis match between one of the aliens are controlling an enormous blancmange, which is a sort of British dessert dish that is represented by a big foam person and absolutely inscrutable to modern eyes, as far as like modern American eyes. I'm just like, what the fuck is this even? This is really, really out there. That I think would be tough to pick up on for a modern audience, but even
it's all a conspiracy for that dessert to win Wimbledon, I believe.
Yeah,
that's the service side. It is bizarre.
But this is beyond anything you see in like even like like nerdy out there American kind of sketch comedy. This is weirder than Tim and Eric or Mr. Show or any of that stuff. This is truly bizarre, truly absurdist, Dada even.
And there's something really funny about the pedigree of all these guys. Like, and I include like even like Mr. Bean, like British comedians in general. Like you read, they all came out of like 1,000-year-old universities. It's all like, he went to this boarding school and then went to Cambridge where he studied this and all this. And like you read it as if, and then you like watch what they created, and it's the Ministry of Silly Walks, and it's could not be the like the amount of pomp and circumstance in their education and their pedigree and their resume, and then. But I think that's why they're so good at that kind of silliness, is because you know how to bring the gravity to it. Yeah, it's smart. It's you do dumb
Harvard
stuff
Lampoon
smartly.
kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. The American version is the Harvard Lampoon, and how that is the sort of feeder system for The Simpsons and Saturday Night Live and out of there.
Which comes to define culture again, in many ways inspired by Monty Python and Flying Circus.
Yeah.
To hear the Pythons themselves talk about it, they do talk about, there's, I forget how it breaks down between like the four main British ones, but there's the two of them that were the Cambridge guys and the two of them that are the Oxford guys. And, to hear, I listened to some Python interviews and commentaries recently, and to hear them tell it, that's the magic, chocolate and peanut butter blend of their sensibilities is that they're half Oxford and half Cambridge or whatever. It's totally inscrutable to an American. But I think what Dan's speaking to is that they're somewhat overeducated for doing this Adult Swim type absurdism, and they can bring in, they're so good. You can tell that they've sat through so much British higher education, like that. They love to go on tangents about, Cartesian philosophy and Hegelian dualism or something like that. Whatever. These are terms that I don't understand, but I can tell that they do, even as they're tossing them off as the joke of overdoing the pointy-headedness.
I mean, that never leaves. I would say Monty Python and the Holy Grail is the lowest common denominator that they get. It's still, it's still pretty intelligent stuff. Mm-hmm. But Life of Brian and Meaning of Life are both like deeply philosophical comic sketch films, oddly enough. Even Holy Grail has a lot of intelligence about the Middle Ages and how they're perceived, and just, well, I mean, we'll get into it, but the reality contrasted with the legend essentially seems to be one of their favorite things to poke at. So things like the coconuts, well, that's its own thing, but I don't know, just the fact that everyone's covered in shit. That it's the filthiest version of the Middle Ages imaginable. That's fun, and a sort of a subversive turn on what, well, in England, they take this stuff very seriously. There's a lot of historical epics getting made, basically, since they start making movies in England, and yeah, or go back to Shakespeare even. They don't emphasize the shit as much, or the people whose jobs it was to, collect shit and make piles of shit, or swing dead cats at a door frame.
Dennis, there's some lovely filth over here. That's what that's a line that stuck with me for decades. That is.
Well, I love that because they're having that discursive discussion of forms of government while they do that. While they collect shit.
Well, I know, but there's some lovely filth over here. It's such a great little aside within that's easy to miss, but also sort of hangs this small lampshade on the fact that they're just piling mud into piles. There's no more to it than that. And I mean, what you're talking about, I think, is for all the absurdism of Holy Grail, you cannot possibly accuse this of taking itself or its subject matter seriously.
No,
it is still evidently made by someone with like a nerd's passion for medieval shit.
Oh yeah,
and culture, and they know these legends that they are using, like riffing on very briefly before they go off into digressions about shrubberies.
Absolutely. I mean, it seems like you would have to. I imagine growing up in England, you know, the King Arthur is their version of Spider-Man or whatever, especially in the 50s and 60s.
I did listen to Gilliam do a commentary on Holy Grail, and one of the things he said to describe its sort of comedic style, which was sort of like a light bulb for me, like, oh yes, this is entirely what they do. That's what they'll do in Life of Brian as well. Is it's the fun, all the like the game of the sketches is always that Arthur and Bedivere, I suppose, are trying to get a proper historical epic started, and they just immediately get distracted and waylaid by somebody who's bringing like a contemporary 20th century British sense, like suburban sensibility to that milieu, and it completely derails everything. And that's like the guy with the anarcho syndicus commune there.
Mm-hmm. The coconut guards that they're getting, talking about African versus European swallows. Yeah, that's the first thing that happens in the film. Yeah,
it's what rewatching it again, beginning to end, at a time when I've mostly watched, cable versions of it, is I forget how quickly they undercut the coconut joke. Like I knew that they would come, but like in my memory, it was like, oh, halfway through the movie, someone points out it's the first. It's like the first line of the movie. They ride up on the thing, and the guy's like, "Hey, here's like." So this movie immediately undercuts, in a great way, its own humor. Like it's like
its own reality. Yeah, it's derailed in the opening lines. Actually, it's derailed in the opening credits.
Yeah, very much so.
And then multiple times in the opening credits. And then, like,
the opening credits are brilliant. God, that's
incredible.
It's so funny, and it's you're getting the joke of the Swedish subtitles, but it's immediate structural absurdity, and then we get into an entire narrative about the Swedish subtitles getting obsessed with moose stories, and they. And so to the point where the movie has to stop and be like, we're going to fix this. They fail to fix it, and it continues and escalates, and they ultimately are replaced by llama enthusiasts. And that's just that is a complete narrative that takes place over the course of the opening credits. It's I don't think I've ever seen anything do that. Even ripping off this.
Naked Gun has like a credits, gag to it that it's following the revolving light around through all the different locker rooms and roller coasters and things.
It's not a narrative.
Yeah, that doesn't feel like the same thing. You're right. It's not a narrative. It's a flip book of little sketch premises. But yeah, and it's impressive to me how that is able to get a laugh out of me just by putting the word "wick" up at the bottom of the screen halfway through it. Like the joke should be getting old there. And I don't know. I don't ever want to know if the actual translation of the word "with" into Swedish is just WIK, because it's perfect that I think it is.
As a person who's currently learning Swedish, I won't spoil it for you. I won't tell you.
Yeah, never tell me. I want to be able to.
That opening credits, I think is. I mean, so many things in this as you watch. It's the difference between good sketch writers and great sketch writers. And we're talking about great sketch writers, and we're talking about maybe the greatest sketch writers. And it is that pinpoint precision heightening where it's like, 1,000 people could have tried this exact same idea and it probably would have been funny. But knowing exactly when and how to heighten, and like you said, adding a narrative. Like we have a thing where we have no dialogue. I mean, except the subtitles, I guess you could say is a soliloquy maybe, but like it's perfectly high. It has a narrative. It has a storyline. It has everything happens at the exact right time, and it gives you that exact right left or right turn, and that is incredible sketch writing. I mean, like again, I think a lot of like Adult Swim stuff we could watch where it's like, oh, someone had a weird idea and they executed it, and it's funny. But then it kind of loses steam. You only really watch the first minute because it loses steam after that. And this one does not. They don't lose steam. They know exactly how to keep things fresh within the joke.
And I would probably put, this is co-directed by Terry Gilliam and Terry Jones. So it's not totally clear that we can credit Gilliam with every great directorial choice. But one thing that speaks to those like pinpoint sensibilities is how they know how to deploy those stupid Swedish subtitles, especially the one word one kills me, but how it's paired particularly well with like the roll of the timpani drums on the score underneath. But this is the moment of this score, which I'm sure was not created for this, like for this credit sequence, but they're just laying the credit sequence over it. But they're like, this is the most dramatic part of this, portent in this thing. This is where we put up a one-word subtitle that's totally pointless. If you were actually subtitling a film, you wouldn't even bother subtitling just the word "with" in the credits, especially when it's one letter different. Anyway,
the music really is great in this throughout, and I think it's a big part of that is that, except in moments when it explicitly turns into like an oom-pom band or something silly, it is played seriously, and not just seriously. It's like a dark historical drama, something from the Dark Ages, something laden with import and danger. Like the opening credits are a good example of that. It's the music feels like it's from I don't know, Kingdom of Heaven or something. A fairly intense Ridley Scott thing. Yeah,
a Conan movie, but yeah,
a Conan movie. Yes, or maybe a Mel Gibson historical epic, but. And then it undercuts that with llama music or what have you. But it is the whole film uses that music, and it's great. And then except for the songs.
Oh yes, when they break
the songs are great. Sir Robin ran away.
One of the greatest sketch songs. I don't know. We're going to use superlatives so loosely in this. I don't know if there's a place to do it. I suppose it would be in the Holy Grail episode.
So anyway, we're on to the coconuts.
Yeah, sure.
Which are a gag of they couldn't afford horses because they didn't have a ton of money to make this. They used coconuts, which is like an old, I guess, radio thing of how you do horse clumping over the radio sound effects, and they just did that. And rather than hide it, they just put it on screen and then immediately called it out, like you said. I was struck by a thought, potentially a specious thought. This time going, do we get the Royale with cheese opening of Pulp Fiction without the coconut digression at the beginning of Holy Grail? It is sort of because when I talk about
I got
being waylaid from starting the movie by this sort of digression into the like this doesn't really matter to the plot or whatever, but our characters can't help but be distracted by it, and it's like. The Pulp Fiction is such an American version of that in a much more serious, less absurdist context. But something about that felt connected to me.
Well, I think that much like, we were just talking about films inspired by James Cameron recently, an episode we did, and it becomes a sort of thing where the influence of this is so far-reaching and widespread and bone deep that it's going to be impossible to kind of parse everywhere that this touches. Like it's movies that have nothing to do with this. For some reason, I don't know, the Ashley Judd film Double Jeopardy wouldn't take some inspiration from Holy Grail. I don't know, to pick a random example. Like this is just that bone deep of a film.
Sure, a swallow, flaps its wings in Africa, and 10 years later, Double Jeopardy gets made.
An African or European swallow, though.
Well, it depends. Because otherwise, if it's European swallow, you end up with Kiss the Girls.
Yes. Right. So that becomes very difficult. And I think that of the entire Monty Python output, I don't know if this is the best film that they made, but I think it's the most influential. I think it is the eternal one and the one that, that everyone has seen 50 times at least.
Yeah, I mean, Life of Brian is is easier to sort of prop up on an artistic level. It is more the satire there is directed.
It feels, diamond sharp. Yeah,
yeah, and it's directed at modern culture. It's not as pure in its absurdism, I suppose. I mean, there's some really fucking absurd things going on there.
It's angry,
Yeah.
Yeah, Life of Brian is a better made movie, but this is my favorite. This would be my personal favorite.
I think it's the funniest.
And again, who knows what nostalgia has to do with that? But like, I did rewatch Life of Brian recently. Was struck by like again remembering like, oh, this is more of a beginning to end. I mean, it was also not their first movie as Holy Grail was, and I think Holy Grail. I was trying to like look at who the editor was, because I bet you whoever the editor, a guy named John Hackney, who didn't seem to have that illustrious of a career, but kind of watching Holy Grail, you're like, oh, there's a lot of just pieces that somebody had to put together. You know, there's a lot of like transitions that are just like, okay, clearly they had a couple scenes filmed and didn't think through enough how to get from one to another. So they're just like, okay, voiceover. Okay, we'll just cop to here. And it all works. And then by the time you get to Life of Brian, they've got a little bit more experience under their belts and they're making more of a.
Yeah, the stitching is not as obvious. And
yes,
I mean,
the stitching is not, yeah. And
Holy Grail turns that into an advantage, or at least like a big part of its identity. Like it would,
right?
Its level of absurdism would not be there if there were smoother transitions between, you know, the Does She Weigh as Much as a Duck sketch and the Brave Sir Robin sketch.
Yes, the disjointedness works. I mean, it's the difference for me watching an 80s action movie and a 2000s action movie that are like at the script, acting, everything is at the same level. I prefer to watch the 80s because it's raw. You know, like it's almost like things become so produced that they're just not as, like, I don't know. Now this is just my overall movie philosophy, which is why I watch a lot of 5.1 on IMDb action movies, because I just want to see them actually crash a car. You know, it's like, oh, you got to crash a car. You got to throw it off. You got to actually throw a car off a cliff. Now we can CGI it, and
they're doing things the script equivalents of crashing a car. They're doing things that are. Would be considered irresponsible from a like screenwriting manual perspective.
Breaking reality left and right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, even I'm just saying 80s action movies were today. You know, there are digressions in, you know, the Billy Crystal, Gregory Hines classic Running Scared, great Chicago movie. That movie stops dead halfway through and forgets about its villain so that they can go on vacation in Florida for 15 minutes. And like,
yes.
I just don't feel like that would make it through a studio assembly line, the script noting process in 2025, when we have codified what the rules of these things are. And
yeah. When movies have to do certain things in the first 90 seconds so that people don't turn it off on Netflix. Yeah.
Right. And Monty Python was, you know, operating in a world where those rules were not as ensconced, but there were cultural rules, particularly, you know, in the fading British Empire. There were long time, all kinds of cultural rules that are becoming shambolic and falling apart around them. And their whole process kind of reflects that in some way.
I mean, it just struck me watching this in conjunction with Flying Circus that I think that this actually holds together incredibly well as a narrative, considering how absurd it is and where they came from. I mean, this is, you know, to have this as a complete 90-minute experience, you know, that almost seems like that must have been a challenge for them, coming out of just the sheer anarchy of Flying Circus. Like, beyond just being absurd in and of itself, it was structurally absurd. Like, one of my favorite sketches they ever did was the Spanish Inquisition sketch, and the thing you always remember about that is the initial reveal on the joke, which is the guy's complaining about his wife complaining, and then the Spanish Inquisition runs in. That's like one moment of that joke. The rest is just like weird kind of like formalist jockeying for position and trying to be like, well, no, we're actually four things, and like, and the husband and wife characters are kind of just actors. It's like, okay, reset, we'll do it again. It's very, very bizarre. It breaks the reality like 5 times in a row. And you don't really remember that.
They are playing around with threading narrative. I mean, that was one of the innovations of Flying Circus as a sketch program, is that they would have that the Spanish Inquisition recurs 3 times throughout that episode. They interrupt other sketches, and it ends, I think, with them. The credits are rolling over. Yeah. Somebody says, I didn't expect Spanish Inquisition in a courtroom sketch. And then you see them run out of the house from the prior time they appeared and get on like a double-decker bus. And now that they're going to be late for they're missing their cue, and the credits are rolling over them. And so like
that's invention though. That is structure.
Flying Circus though. It's not new for Holy Grail exactly to have that threading between the sketches.
I guess it is a narrative within the absurdity. I suppose that's true. Yeah, you're right. Good point.
I don't want to oversell that. I don't find those threaded narratives all that satisfying in revisiting Flying Circus. Like they're not, the threading's not strong enough.
Well, I guess that is more what I'm going for. Like this is a refined version of the thing. Like for being as shambolic as it is and kind of episodic and chopped up, this is a coherent thing with some version of a 3-act structure and a beginning, middle, end, and a cast of characters that have arcs. That in and of itself is almost impressive after Flying Circus.
I mean, a little bit, I suppose. I don't know. Does Lancelot have an arc, really? I guess, yeah, like within his, episode, there's sort of an arc to his episode within that.
All right.
Okay, let's try with this. The favorite sketch within Holy Grail. What's your favorite episode?
Oh, boy. I mean, I was trying to figure this out. It's hard. Is it the French Knights? That's a high point.
Oh my God, the French Knights are.
Is it the Knights Who Say Knee? I think I have to go with the Burn the Witch scene, though.
Oh, damn it. That's what I was going to choose.
I always have a soft spot for John Cleese killing everyone at that wedding.
I
just think it is so funny. Beginning just from the opening bit of him running towards the castle and never getting any closer is one of my favorite things. The looks on those guys' faces are burned in my brain. It's so that's so funny. And then it's just
again, expert comedic use of the timpani drums.
Yes. Yeah.
It gets funnier every time they do the exact same thing. That takes a level of genius.
It must be a graduate level class at Cambridge is timpani and comedy. Yeah, but the witch scene I is the most tightly written. Like it is probably the best
It's the most Life of Brian
sketch
kind of scene in the movie.
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
Definitely. It also has several of my best just tiny little performance things in it.
That's the thing that really kicks it over the edge for me is everyone is so fucking good in that scene. They're so funny.
Eric Idle biting the scythe while he's thinking. His character is thinking. Everybody, the Pythons love to point out that it's because he's trying not to laugh and ruin the take, and that's his fix for it, which is just becomes hilarious to me. John Cleese, the way John Cleese is thinking so hard to get to because she's made of wood.
Yeah, very small
just
rocks.
Brilliant physical comedy.
There's this idiot zeal on all their faces. They're so excited to be burning this wood. It's so great, and yeah, I mean it's all the same stuff. It's all this the Middle Ages were horrid. Everyone was insane. Everyone was absolutely miserable. They believed demons were hiding behind anywhere you couldn't see in the woods. There was demons there. But
that's because it's not even so much
they were mad
that they believe it. It's that they're so. It's less that they believe demons are hiding everywhere, and more that they're just so desperate for entertainment that they want to burn one of their fellow citizens just because it's a slow Wednesday.
And Bedivere, I love that this establishes him as a man of science and the wisest of the knights. It's great.
Yeah, I love the dumbest people in the town coming to what they the town genius who's just the dumbest but says it in a smart way. That's
yes, you can apply the framework of logic to the most illogical suppositions and conclusions. To praise Gilliam as a performer. I assume it's he who decided that every time Bedivere speaks, he should lift up the tiny little face grate on his flappy helmet. But that's just a wonderful decision. It just sprinkles in light, paprikas of comedy and over lines that don't otherwise, or that might not have it otherwise.
Bedivere's Terry Jones, right?
No, it's Gilliam, right?
I think Bedivere's Terry Jones. It's hard to see with the.
No, Terry Jones is he's some lovely filth Dennis. But he does that. Of course. That shrieking voice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna make sure.
This is Googleable. Also, while you do that, another just small, wonderful choices. Having King Arthur's got the best, most elaborate armor of everybody, and then just having him wear his crown a little lopsided. at all times is just a great choice that just kind of undercuts everything ever so slightly. And, he might be the one who doesn't have shit all over him, but even he can't, pull off the image right.
The costume design is actually really excellent.
It is.
The Arthur design is simple and yet kind of perfect. And I don't know, I think Graham Chapman is pretty remarkable as the straight man in this. To hold the center as he does is great stuff. He was a loss. I wonder what he would have done given more time. It was Terry Jones, in fact, as Bedivere.
What?
Yes, Gilliam plays Sir Bors, who is the guy who's killed by the bunny. Yeah,
he barely says anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess he's wearing a mustache that looks just like a mustache that Gilliam wore in a lot of Flying Circus sketches. I guess is how I got that.
And Patsy. He's also
and
Patsy.
his accent does sound like a Minnesota guy trying to do a British accent, but
yes. But I don't know, that is the voice Terry Jones uses for all the women he plays as well.
That's true.
Well, they all have the really high-pitched British lady voice.
Of course.
They're sort of like the Bluths with their own chicken dances. They all have their own little variation on the voices.
Terry Jones is, of course, he's also the Prince Herbert in the Lancelot sketch, which is also a very funny performance and just sort of horrible, just sort of disgusting in its way to behold. Whatever they've got on his face is so off-putting. That also has Palin. Maybe Palin's funniest performance in the movie. I don't know. He's doing a lot of good stuff here, but
is Palin's doing the dad?
Yeah,
in that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's not quabble about who killed who. I still will get stuck in my head the whole. He's going to tell us. 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 Just a tiny little music stinger that just it's good. But I'm not just going to sit here and quote
the music. The musical numbers are great. I mean, the Camelot number one. That's a great sort of road to nowhere little thing where they're all gathering to go to Camelot, and then they get there, they do the musical number, and they decide actually this place is too silly. Let's move on. But my favorite part within that is, well, it's either the knight in full armor who's just spinning in a circle with his arms out as they throw a goose across the screen at one point, but it's probably the cut to the guy hanging from the walls outside, just clapping along with his hands in shackles.
Oh, the best!
And a little grin on his face.
The music lowers to exactly again pinpoint precision.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Pinpoint precision comedic choices in a otherwise crazy thing is the amount that the music cuts down is perfect in that.
The sound design is wonderful in that
sound,
case.
yeah.
As is with they mute the yay celebration to the just perfect amount.
It is crazy to me that this film is directed basically, but it's Terry Jones and Terry Gilliam, the only Pythons with real aspirations to do that sort of thing. Well, I don't know, they all kind of eventually give it a shot, but those were the two that made films. But this really just sort of is out of need, out of necessity that somebody needed to kind of corral it, is what it seems like. Mm-hmm. It's wild how good they did. How incredibly well put together this is just on a technical level. The editing in particular. I guess it comes down to being comics, to being comedians, that they know the timing of comedy is what I would attribute that to. But yeah, every scene ends about 20 seconds before it wears out its welcome, they all the exact right moment. They, you have scenes that, the tale of Sir Robin is content to be about 4 minutes long, that it's the right length because that's all that premise will allow. And they're quite smart about that throughout. As we will go on in this series, I'm going to make the argument that Terry Gilliam's a really good director. So, sure, I guess it was innate in some case, some sense here, but for just young people in their 20s, I guess they were probably in their early 30s when they made this, but just throwing something together, first time out the gate, made one of the greatest comedies of all time. Very impressive.
That's also a historical epic.
Yeah, that's also a historical epic, right?
That is a thing that, there's a hubris involved there, perhaps. I can't believe they pulled that off. That is an added layer of difficulty. It's that, the Please Don't Destroy crew is not going to make that mistake with their debut movie. Like trying something conceptually difficult on top of just doing a completely absurdist comedy, which is a hard
They did a movie.
act on its own. Yeah, but was it a historical epic? I bet they didn't shoot on water either,
And it was not Monty Python and the Holy Grail, to be fair. It did not have the cultural importance of this film.
No, sure, but like Lonely Island, when they do Hot Rod,
right,
people will cite that as a modern classic, and I love that's a great comedy movie. I love that. It is not as ambitious of a shoot, as the production as this is,
not remotely.
But I think there's a comparison between those two movies in that you have these young, successful comedians who are kind of left to their own devices. Because in Hot Rod, they're kind of left to their own devices. They send them up to Vancouver. They send Seth Meyers with them and say, hey, try to keep this going. And
there is a Lorne Michaels infrastructure there that they are kind of working with. There's a playbook, there's people on hand to make sure they don't fuck it up, I'm sure, in a way that wasn't here.
But they had a fair amount of free reign. Not as much as Monty Python. I think you look at Monty Python, and again, looking at there doesn't seem to be a lot of studio interference. The producers, have you looked at who produced this movie?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, I don't want to.
It's financed by. I know that it was mainly. I mean, one of the reasons why they don't have studio interference is it's not paid for by a studio. It's paid for by a whole bunch of British rock musicians.
Yeah,
Pink Floyd, Elton John, and Led Zeppelin, basically.
Yeah, and George Harrison. I'm probably conflating who paid for Life of Brian and who did.
Harrison did Life of Brian.
David Bowie did some. And I think it's apparently a bunch of British rock celebrities kind of shopping around for tax losses that they can write off.
Right.
And so they're willing to take this big throw money at the pythons.
I do love the idea of them showing up and
even just
Jimmy Page watching dailies and having notes. I think that'd be really they think they have and then he's like, actually, could we tighten this up a little bit? And
yeah, actually, sorry, Peter Gabriel has notes about the tale of Sir Galahad. He doesn't understand why Sir not appearing in this film is not a bigger role.
Love that bit. God, that's funny. It's a funny joke just that there's a knight who's not in the movie and he's in the book, but the fact that it's just a little baby face photoshopped into a suit of armor with a bunch of negative space where the rest of the head is supposed to be. Always funny to me. I love that.
Yeah, those interstitials are great. I mean, you know what? Actually, all right, I'm going to change my favorite sketch bit. Their encounter with God. And just the portrayal of God as the world's grumpiest British man, shouting at, grumbling at them from a cloud, and sort of digressing from his own, whole anointing of a holy quest to just complain about how the Psalms are miserably written, and kind of hates his own fans.
Yeah, it's great subversive joke. It does feel, I mentioned South Park earlier. This is when I was just like, holy shit, is the entirety of South Park based on this God segment in Holy Grail? It feels like the entire genesis of it, And it's immediately followed by the butt trumpeters, animation, which is very much them too. So, it feels like it. I don't know how real that is, but I mean, did Trey Parker and Matt Stone know this movie? Yeah, they did, for sure.
I guarantee you they played that Holy Grail video game that Dan was talking about earlier, because they made their own South Park computer art role-playing games. Actually, you know what that reminded me of? So when Dan mentioned that video game earlier, I was like, oh yeah, I do remember that being a thing. I never got to play it. It was hard to find in pre-Amazon days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and it
I believe I still have it around somewhere.
I mean, would you even have a CD-ROM player to play it on?
That's the problem.
No, I mean, I could emulate it, I'm sure, on a laptop. Yeah. But
it was all mini games where you would play
all mini games. Yeah.
Yeah, you would. There was a whack-a-mole, and you're whacking dying British people or something.
That actually is the perfect sort of adaptation of this movie's structure. It's it's a series of sketches knit together, and of course, the game should be a series of mini games.
Yeah, I remember it was like an interactive soundboard. And at that time when it was harder to watch this movie, I mean, I'm sure I had it on VHS and stuff like that, but it was a way to interact and hear the lines. It's probably why so many of the lines are ingrained is because you would just hear them over and over because they would have soundboard or sound clips from the movie as you clicked buttons and as you did that. So it was basically like me. It's like those things you give an infant that you play with, except I'm just a 15-year-old like pressing it.
Instead of farm animal noises, it's saying knee.
Yeah.
And your father smelled of elderberries. Yeah.
I'm getting better.
That was the whack-a-mole game. Was the Bring Out Your Dead? It was just hitting dead guys who
Was it? Okay.
were popping out of a corpse pile. Yeah.
God, another just great soundboard clip is just I feel happy.
I feel
I
happy.
feel happy. Okay, but what I was wanted to say there, it reminded me. I never got to play the computer game. You know, what I did get to play was the Monty Python the Holy Grail collectible card game. There was that's how like already iconic this movie was in the mid 90s is when I was going to buy Magic the Gathering cards, found that they had also knew the audience of Magic the Gathering so well that they had produced an entire collectible card game where basically every line in this movie was adapted into a card that had some very silly gameplay. I remember it being a kind of well-designed game for what was obviously a lark that would never catch on. But
Right. I was thinking, like, I can't actually have had tournaments for this.
no. It was played. People played on the side at Magic tournaments.
Right. Mm-hmm.
3 people would have one of these decks, and it would, it was very silly. If you could get the the killer rabbit out, you would like locked up the game. You won. But it speaks to every line being iconic within like the fandom of this movie. Everybody in the comic store,
right,
could recite the movie to that degree, where they'd be like, "Oh, you got the it's a shrubbery card."
I mean, this is kind of the first, like one of the first major cult films, right? Like of the analog age of pre-internet tapes getting exchanged. It's almost
VHS.
Sort of a secret handshake of a film, and that that you would have to meet somebody to tell you about this for the most part if your dad didn't, and
right.
It wouldn't be something you'd find out about online. You'd have to kind of seek it out, I suppose. And it wasn't exactly the sort of thing that jumped off the shelf at a Blockbuster, unless you knew what you were looking for.
No, but I would love to see where it ranks if they had like the data on it, where it ranked on like Blockbusters in the lifespan of Blockbuster, like what its biggest rentals were. And I would guess Holy Grail is way up there. Because I can vouch for it. Like me and my couple nerd friends put up some numbers for them just in themselves.
Yeah, but it was definitely an introducing. It was someone had to show you, because I don't remember it being on cable as much. I think in my mind it was, but then I was like, it wasn't really like a Comedy Central. I feel like it was one that like someone had to tell you about it. Someone had to like you wouldn't necessarily just randomly catch it one day and get into it. It was passed along like the like all sacred texts.
I don't remember ever seeing it on cable. I remember seeing it on VHS tapes.
Yeah.
And this was the introduction Python thing too, right? For sure. Like this is the first one you showed anybody because it's the easiest to kind of understand immediately, probably, and the silliest and the most kid friendly. This is the PG one. The others are R. So yeah, if your dad is introducing it to you, this is he's not going to show me the one that challenges religion and has penises in it. Yeah.
My dad was constantly challenging religion in my household, so that would have aligned. But I read that they had to be talked out of doing nudity in the scene with all the women.
Oh yeah,
and I was like thinking, oh, thank God they made this movie PG, because how much would that have changed? Like, my ability to have just watched it, because it wasn't anything like it wasn't like a movie that's like, oh, parents are going to bed, let's go watch Monty Python. It's something we could all watch. They could put it on at Boy Scouts.
Right.
They could put the fact that it was PG made it so accessible to kids. And that would not have been the case if they had decided to do anything that had challenged that PG rating.
Yeah. And also within that scene, it would have made it
pervy,
weirder and grosser. Yeah, pervy.
Yeah.
And like way grosser unless they changed one of my favorite lines in it, which is the lady describing Castle Anthrax and how we're just 40 blonde and brunette young maidens between the ages of 16 and 19 and a half. And 16 to 19 and a half is such a perfect, it's funnily specific age range to me, but also if there's actual nudity in it, it's going to make things feel weirder as an adult.
Let's talk about the Tale of Sir Galahad for a second, because I don't think this is anyone's favorite sketch necessarily, but it's fascinating. It's really quite the sketch. I think it's kind of having the most fun with Arthurian legend in a way, but it's full of non sequiturs and bizarre things that were very confusing to me as a child. The Castle Anthrax as a name, first off, like, that's what the fuck is even the joke there? It's weird.
I was going to ask, is there a joke I'm missing, or is it just
they just love
never
to
figured out why.
just name things stupidly, like to have just random, third tier flying circus sketches. We'll just have somebody coming like, "Oh, welcome in, Miss Luxury Yacht," or something. Like,
the names of the women here as well are wild. Every single character name in Anthrax is, I wrote them down: Zoot, Midget, Crapper, Dr. Piglet and Dr. Winston, and Dingo. Those are fantastic names. Who's fucking Crapper? Which of these girls is named?
that is Crapper is the great like escalation of it. It's like, how silly is it get? It just gets, we're gonna make it as stupid as possible now, and there's nowhere to go from there.
It has the stupidest resolution imaginable, which, you almost think is a lie when you hear it, which is like, we put up the GRAIL shaped light. Like, I honestly thought there was something like actually insidious going on here. Like there was a sinister, like when I was a kid, like, are they going to kill him? What's going on? And no, they just want to have sex with him. It's, it's really just that. It's kind of a thing on the noble chastity of the Arthurian knights.
But they also want to have a highly like specific, almost scripted form of sex with them. That they have to go through. Like, they want them to go through the hoops of Spanx, and then there's the oral sex. There for some reason tickles me.
There's a moment when Zoot breaks the reality there too. It's like, I think this scene probably should be cut, right? This is bizarre. Lancelot runs in. I think this is one of the funniest things. Cleese in the background, by the way, is an assassin in this. He's so funny when he's not the focus of the scene. Dingo, I believe, at this point runs up, tries to stop him, and he just rams the sword in her face so close, and he's like, "Silence, foul temptress!" like full on scary. This was like it. I mean, you mentioned he's kind of the Will Ferrell of Monty Python when we were talking about this before. He's this giant fucking guy. This is a full on bitch hunter moment.
That's precisely what it is. I was just thinking about, like Will Ferrell doesn't have the same range as Cleese because he doesn't have the like aristocratic end of his spectrum that he can do. I mean, his version is American aristocracy, which is George W. Bush. It is still kind of low class in a way, and Cleese can stretch to be an upper class twit. But man, they know how to use him and his size, and he knows how to use his size to play idiocy in a funny way, and that's what Will Ferrell's speciality is.
Maybe the single funniest joke in this whole film for me, the thing that I always watch and laugh now, is during the French night scene, which is also just a tour de force for Cleese. But as Lancelot, when they are storming the castle, as they throw livestock and garbage at them, Lancelot is the only one who actually reaches the castle, and it's in the background, and he just hits the wall 3 times with his sword.
Yeah, he's just whacking the wall with his sword. But he like switches from an overhand whack to a straightforward thrust, like he's going to stab it this time. Like he's trying... In the video game version, like he's doing his X attack and then his A button attack. He's trying them all. Really convinced it's going to work. This 60-foot tall, 10-foot thick
it's so
wall
good.
Is going to be taken down by his sword.
I mean, all these guys are just legends, man. That's the thing. Like every single one of these people, I guess Gilliam doesn't have an actor moment to really shine in this, but all the others are just doing incredible things here. Like all-timer, great gags.
I mean, okay. Graham Chapman also, in the movies especially, gets tasked with a lot of the straight man roles.
Right.
I mean, he's their lead guy, and he died young, but doesn't have the sort of same career outside of Python. So I think he's the easier one to sleep on after Gilliam.
Right.
But yeah, Eric Idle, Michael Palin, and John Cleese are all like really it's impossible to say who's the biggest killer among them comedically.
Yeah, Jesus, Palin. Palin is he's the Knights Who Say Knee. He's the king of Swamp Castle. He's man. I think he's no. Cleese is the French Knight, of course.
Yes, I mean, and if Cleese came up with whoever came up with placing his gauntleted hands in that configuration on the side of the castle wall deserves a fucking Nobel Prize.
Mm-hmm.
Key Niggets, I think, is an incredible bit
yes.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, look, I knew this episode would ultimately just be about, talking about how great these bits are, little moments like the monks hitting themselves in the face with the planks of wood, just it's impossible not to when you come into this film, when you're actually getting into it, just kind of, it becomes a recitation of just like, and then this bit is great too. Then what about that bit? Can you fucking believe how funny that bit?
What about Tim the Enchanter?
Yeah, top to bottom, it never stops. There's always comic convention.
Just shoots the flames again, pinpoint comedic. It just like raises because he's just doing it at nobody, like just kind of for show, but he's doing it before they even walk up, and then it just kind of gets bigger and bigger. I also like like you're saying, like each bit works. Each bit we could talk about. This works. This works. This works. This works. The heightening, the introduction of the historian at exactly the right moment in this movie, where the world starts to get bigger because the world starts small, gets bigger because we meet all the different people. Then the other individual people have their own adventure, so it gets a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
Then we meet God. Yeah, I guess it gets as big as it can get, and then. All of a sudden, so like you're going, and again, there's times that this could start to get tired, could start to get like, okay, where is this going? You introduce a historian in modern day who gets knifed down, and then that becomes this running storyline.
You introduce the modern day framing device, and then that is interrupt like that. The structure we've been talking about is you're trying to get the Arthurian legend started, and it keeps getting interrupted by 20th century British sensibilities invading it. And then you introduce 20th century Britain as a framing device, and then that is invaded by the medieval knight running through and killing the guy. It's like the revenge of the movie that was trying to exist.
Right. Yeah, I never thought about that. It is like, hey, shut up. We're doing a movie here.
And I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen plenty of BBC documentaries of old historians standing on castle parapets or medieval settings and talking about the thing. So I always enjoy that just because now every time I see those, I imagine a knight running by and killing them. On YouTubes that my wife watches about, the clothes they wore during the reign of Henry VIII. I'm just like, it'd be funny if a guy ran out with a sword and attacked her. Oh, well.
I'm not I don't want to, particularly in today's day and age, I don't want to incite violence in anybody, but
certainly.
David Attenborough's getting up there. And so if anybody in Britain wants to send him out in style, they're running out of time.
It's what he would have wanted.
Yeah, it would be the funniest way. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good stuff. I don't know. Anything to say about the Knights Who Say Knee? I think that's a great bit too. Most absurd moment in the film, probably. I love Roger.
How would one measure such a thing?
How would one measure? I love that they're running a con at the end. Like, there's, oh no, we don't do that anymore. And then one of them's like, knee, and they got to shush him. That's really fun.
I feel the replacement for Michael Palin's performance trailing off in the replacement for knee. What they say now, icky patang,
I love how like terrified they are at first, and it's like, okay, we got to get this shrubbery, and then they get it back, and they're like, we want another shrubbery. It's like, shut up. Like, and immediately they're just like, okay, we're done with this. We were fools to follow this to begin with.
We should end this sketch now. I mean, that's how many of the sketches end with the in peril and then just walking away from it?
Enough of that then.
I mean, we have not even talked about, honestly, wait, maybe the best is the it's Malleus flesh wound.
Oh, the Black Knight, yeah.
The Black Knight. That's like, that might be my favorite. That's an incredible sequence.
I believe the commentary said that was that's Cleese Gilliam in as the Black Knight and the Green Knight doing that choreography. Yeah, because one of them was talking about how difficult it is to do that fight choreography in these helmets where you can have these tiny little slits you can see out of.
Your arms off. No, it didn't. Well, yeah, good stuff. Okay, quoting it again.
And trying to goad him back into fight, even as he's sitting there as a stump, trying to get Arthur to come back and fight him more by taunting him as he leaves.
Incredible practical effects, too. You just dig a hole.
So, I don't know, should we talk about the end of the film, sort of dispensing with all these characters, sort of without much ceremony in most cases? I love who dies at the bridge over the chasm of eternal peril. It's just randomly Sir Robin and Michael and Sir Galahad because he forgets what his favorite color is. That's pretty great.
Yeah, it is crazy that. I mean, it's just, I guess, a minor sketch writing thing, but just to have them, the losers there, lose for such two completely different reasons, and setting up Arthur to get the hard question too. You know?
Yeah.
And Lancelot just walking through, like, okay, there you go. All right, great. Like, it's so easy the first time.
Lancelot gets arrested, and then, well, they all do at that point, I suppose. Just, sort of scattered moments. This ending. Apparently they had a different ending, and they couldn't afford it. And so they were just like, this is funny, right? And it totally works. It's
Did
really
the funding
great.
from The Who fall through? Is that what happened? Or?
Yeah, something like that. I am fascinated by the end of it, though, the actual end, when the policeman turns off the camera, and it's just this elevator music for about a minute with no text. I just love that.
Should actually be the ending, like music for our podcast every time. No one's beaten that since 1975.
Mm-hmm. It lets you just sit there and be like, "That's it? It's over then? That's how it ends." Okay, that's how it ends, it's a fun joke as well, kind of. It really does, like, I don't know if I've ever seen anything that reveled in being anticlimactic as much as this. And I think by leaning into it, it works. Usually it kind of bothers me, but I don't know. It's hard to take these characters seriously, I suppose, but
No, of course you're not taking these guys seriously.
Right.
And it's also important for comedies to not overstay their welcome. You know, people are pretty gaga over The Naked Gun getting done in 90-odd minutes this year.
Yeah, well.
I say people, me included.
You don't want the 2-hour version of that movie, that's for sure. Yeah.
No, it's exhausting.
So, I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, we can just talk about how funny the jokes are for a while, but I don't know. There is a cultural legacy of this thing. Obviously, it keeps making money forever. Eric Idle turns it into a Broadway musical in the aughts.
It's a good show.
Spamalot. I don't know, man. I saw this show with the original cast, which was Tim Curry as Arthur, David Hyde Pierce as Sir Robin, and I didn't see Hank Azaria, who was the originator of Lancelot. I saw Alan Tudyk, which I think is an equal, an even swap there. And
if you're going to complain about what you're describing as a show, I'm going to shout knee at you again.
Well, here's the thing. It's not quite like The Producers, the Mel Brooks movie that they turned into. That he turned that into a fucking show, like top to bottom rewrite. Spamalot it's really just kind of scrap mining, just like we're gonna do all the bits you're familiar with on stage. Please, $120
with an added song or two.
Yeah, there's a few new songs. I wouldn't say any of them are good. The best song in the show is Camelot, or the Ballad of Sir Robin, probably. But it is. I mean, it was cool to see Tim Curry doing this shit. That was great.
Like, if they just wanted to shot for shot remake Monty Python and the Holy Grail with that cast you described, I would pay to see that in the theater.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone left happy. Like, it won the Tony for Best Musical, and it really is just like, we're just doing the show on stage. The vast majority of it, 90% of the script is just the movie. And we're copying the inflections used in the film because they are so well known. Half of it is like sort of who's on first routines. You know, like the guards at Swamp Castle, they're just going to do that the way they do it in the movie. And guess what? It works. Everyone has a good time. They go home happy. I don't know if I respect it exactly, but it's sort of undeniable that the thing just has magic. It persists. They do change the ending and make it happy, of course, though.
Yeah, I don't remember all the details of it, but I remember being entertained, and that I was surprised how many scenes went straight from movie to stage, but that it still functioned as stage.
Well,
because,
it's what you're there to see, I suppose. This comes out a year after Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. Seems like a golden era for the spoof film.
Mm-hmm.
Has anything come close to those three films since? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You'll find people that worship Top Secret or that think Love Airplane because it's their first exposure to things. But also, like Blazing Saddles is sort of the Life of Brian of the Mel Brooks catalog, where it's got its cultural satire is more front and center than in Spaceballs or whatever, and
Certainly.
So it will get into the conversations about like quote unquote important comedy easier,
right?
Than maybe in Young Frankenstein. Yeah.
Well, Young Frankenstein it's a narrative. I mean, that actually is taken seriously. Like there's characters that that you're following there, and I mean, you ostensibly care about them.
and film nerds love to praise Young Frankenstein for like the filmmaking being so much better than Robin Hood Men in Tights.
It certainly is
doing that black and white style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good time though. Good time for comedy in general. You were allowed to laugh at things back then. That's why, you see.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Today you can't say knee to fucking anybody. I have been shadow banned on Twitter since 2021 because I said something. I was quoting somebody else saying knee is what happened, but I still got demonetized.
Yeah. I do think a lot about how the two biggest comedies for me growing up in my family was Blazing Saddles and Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail. And we quoted Monty Python a lot more. And I think that was a good decision. I think it's...
I mean, a lot more N-words in Blazing Saddles.
Yeah. It's like... I'm like, oh yeah, there's only a couple lines that we could have shouted at each other as kids. That
I don't know. Is knee? No, can't you see that man is a knee?
Yeah.
In my house, it was Holy Grail was just mine. Nobody else in my family was nerdy enough to go Holy Grail. Naked Gun was the other big comedy in my house because that's the one that was actually on TV. And
that was on TV.
We were able to tape it off TV. So it was one of the, when we had 5 or 6 tapes, it was one of the 5 or 6. So that got all the play in my house.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be showing this to my kid at some point for sure. It's gonna have to pick the right moment. I don't know, probably 8 or 9 seems correct. That
feels right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Too early might be because there's like jokes that.
Well, it's violent, frankly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
violent.
I guess that's. This is as a non-parent. That's the kind of stuff I'm not thinking. I was like, well, are they going to understand the jokes? He's like, well, maybe I just don't want to see. Well, my kid's seeing
the sword going through the Green
blood.
Knight's head. Yeah. Yeah, that's so weird. I mean, I'm trying to think of how old I was when I saw it, and the violence in it never upset me, but probably because no matter how young I was, I had like already seen Predator.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
By the time I saw this, so that this is so comedically tinted.
Yeah.
Well, I won't know really what she's going to be able to handle.
Exactly
when, but not yet. I can tell you that.
Yeah, my parents were so anxious to watch things that they liked that they were not wanting to watch like kid stuff. So we were just watching. We watched so much way earlier than we probably should have. Though I will say, I liked it as a kid. I think it was like, man, we got to watch everything. But I think about like when we watched Terminator 2 and how old I was. And so I think I probably had seen Terminator 2 by the time I had seen Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail. So I think the violence in Monty Python wasn't as traumatic as what I had experienced already as a 6 or 7 year old. But
I mean, I kind of leveraged my parents' divorce into being able to watch shit like RoboCop at a young age. So.
I mean, you might as well get something out of it.
You have to, yeah.
That was the silver lining.
Yeah.
Okay, so Terry Gilliam is now officially a film director coming out of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and he has got all his Monty Python cachet. He's going to use that to make his next movie. Does anybody remember what that movie's called?
The movie's called Jabberwocky. This is it's sort of I don't know, a step between sketch comedy and a real movie. I guess it is a real movie. There's a Criterion disc. We're going to talk about
Criterion disc, really?
Oh,
wait,
yes.
Is it good? I've never heard anybody say a single good thing about this movie.
No one's seen it. Is the point? Yeah.
I've never seen it.
I don't know if good is. I mean, he gets better. I'll tell you that much. But look, it is Terry Gilliam making a medieval comedy. So you're seeing, starring Michael Palin. So it's not bad, man. It's doing a lot of the same stuff. It's just with the intention of being a bit more of a real film. I'm interested to revisit it. It's been a while.
Maybe that'd be a question for next time. Is Holy Grail the only successful medieval comedy that's ever existed? And maybe Jabberwocky will give us a chance to examine that question. But
First Night. No, I'm just kidding.
That's the one. First
Not
Night
good
is
nor
the one
comedy,
with
but-
Sean Connery and Richard Gere. Are you thinking of Black Knight with Martin Lawrence?
I was thinking of First Night, but Black Knight is a better. Yeah.
Better comment. All right.
I'm going to think about that. There must be one. I think Broken Lizard did a medieval thing. Surely that was good.
They did?
Did they?
I think they
Are you
did.
thinking of Your Highness with Franco and...
No. That I have seen that film. You know what? This is we have multiple medieval comedies to speak about this with. So let's consider this, and we might also be prudent to consider the the Terry Jones Viking comedy, Eric the Viking. That came out in the 80s. That's got a lot of pythons in it as well, and it might work as a contrast with Jabberwocky. I'm gonna watch it. I believe memory serves, it opens with like a 10-minute rape joke. So something to look forward to for everybody.
Oh, fun. Another one for the kids.
Wait till she's 9 for that one. Great. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Dan.
Yeah,
Hey,
you,
thanks
Dan.
for having me.
And thanks for listening. We're getting into it now. Terry Gilliam. And now for something completely Gilliam. Continuing soon with Jabberwocky. And I don't know, maybe we'll talk about Life of Brian as well. We'll talk about it.
Don't touch it! It's evil!
That was only one of the many occasions on which I met my death.